All right, let's open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yasharal, we come for you, Yahweh, once again, humbled, Yahweh, as an assembly through the tribulation that we go through, Yahweh, but we also come through you in thanks, Yahweh, and just giving you all the glory, Yahweh, for your extreme mercy that you afford daily, Yahweh, to your servants. Although we make mistakes, Yahweh, you do not punish us, Yahweh, your sore displeasure. You always make sure that you give us a way out, and you always keep your hedge of protection. You don't forsake us. So we thank you, Yahweh. We acknowledge that we are not worthy, but we ask that you once again provide us eyes to see and ears to hear, so that we could see the chastening that you put forth in our lives, Yahweh, and make those right decisions and changes in our lives, Yahweh, that give you glory, Yahweh. Those things that you already know we are going to make, Yahweh. For we understand that you see the finished product, and we are just works in progress, Yah. So we ask that you open our eyes so we can see the true self, which is the God in us, Yahweh, the Yah in us, that's in us, to bring that forth, Yahweh, and escape this flesh, Yahweh, and be more spiritual creatures, Yah. Yah, we ask that you extend your hedge of protection about our assembly, Yahweh, and our people that are spread across the four corners of the earth, for we are under intense and immense attacks, Yahweh. And we will burden this, Yahweh, and we will suffer through this, Yahweh, patiently and wait on your instructions, Yah. And we will look for those things that you're trying to get us to see, Yah. Yah, we ask that you open up your spirit of understanding, Yah, so that we can increase our ability to learn and teach, Yahweh, and be a good example as ambassadors for your people here on this earth, Yah. Yeah, all these things we humbly come before you. We make no demands. We make full supplication, Yahweh, through your holy, humble, anointed Son, Yahshua HaMashiach, in which all praise, majesty, might, and dominion resides here and forevermore. Through Yahshua HaMashiach, we thank and pray. Amen. Shalom. My name is Yadon Yasharal, my brother Yonatan Yasharal. Shalom. And the title of our Bible study today is Yasharal, a people captive. Yasharal, a people captive. And we look at our current state here, and we see the latter part of it where we know that we came in as slaves. We had a lot of tribulation and captivity and evil treatment. And we look at how we're treated now, and we consider ourselves in a better part of that. So to the point where a lot of us, because of money and financial situations, we feel that we are now free. We are out of captivity. We're in a great position. I think it was Harriet Tubman that made the statement that I could have freed a lot more slaves if they just knew that they were slaves. They knew they was captive. And we think because we're free to move around and move about, that we are free. But at the end of the day, if you have no knowledge of self, you can't go back to your original state. You can't reclaim your culture. Then you are captive because you are confined to what they tell you you are and what your situation is. And that is the difference between this captivity and every other captivity we were in. A lot of people, they only familiar with the Egypt captivity and this captivity. And some people aren't even really familiar with this captivity. But we have been in captivity over captivity over captivity over captivity over again. And to the point where we have to ask ourselves, are we born slaves? Are we homeborn slaves? What is the purpose? Why does the Most High hate us so much? When at the end of the day, it's not him hating us so much. It's because he loves us, is why he keeps putting us in these situations. Because the only other opportunity, the only other result or choice is death. So we're going to take a look at this trend that we have. And hopefully in looking at this, you know, being captive to these so-called non-melanated creatures, that's just this last portion of it. Every other captivity we were captive to a melanin people. So this is not a black or white thing. This is a supernatural thing that we're going through. And this is why none of the other nations can understand what we're going through, is because this is supernatural. This is divine intervention from the Most High, forcing this upon us according to his promise, because the Most High is not a man. We'll tell you something, you know, you don't do this, I'm going to do that. And at the end of the day, we get soft and we don't do something, or we don't even allow the person to do it. We just give them the judgment anyways. But the Most High is fair, and his word will not return. If he says something, it might as well write edged in stone. So we're going to first open up in Jeremiah chapter 2. And before that, we'd like the viewers, if you could, put a special prayer out for our assembly. We are experiencing a lot of personal attacks throughout all the different members of the assembly. A lot of this stuff are consequences of our own decisions, but a lot of it is just the same walk that we all share as being Israel, trying to navigate through this world and dealing with the powers that be, the spiritual wickedness in high places trying to come against us. And this has been going on for a while, and this is a theme we keep talking about. We're getting attacked in all aspects of our lives. And I know you, the viewers, children of Israel, and those that love the children of Israel can experience that as well, because the adversary wants you to stop doing the right thing. Because if you assimilate to the way of things of this world, then it opens up the opportunity for the adversary, the devil, to do what he wants to do. So stay strong. Understand that Yeshua, when he said, he who endures is fit for the kingdom, understand that you will be enduring. But from my own personal experience, I can tell you from my few years of walking in this, in the grand scheme of things, is attacks are going to come. But at the end of the day, the result has always been the same here, as well as for many of you. The Most High will prevail and he will get his glory. So if we act and do our actions in a manner, regardless of what we did in the past, but our actions now and moving forward are to glorify him, then it will always be the same result. The Most High is going to get his glory, and the servants will remain protected in the hedge of protection. So unfortunately, as being leaders, as being the ambassador nation of people to all the other nations in the earth, we have to walk through this fire first. We have to walk in the scary place first, and then everybody else gets to see the results of that. Shalom, Sister Tanya and Brother Isaiah, y'all be with you and the family. Shalom, Kim Marie. Shalom, Brother Brandon. And shalom, Arthrine Campbell. Good to see you as well. We're going to open up in Jeremiah chapter 2. And we're going to start that at verse 1. Jeremiah chapter 2. And we'll start that at verse 1.
Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Yahweh, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your espousals, when you went after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. Yasharal was holiness unto Yahweh, and the firstfruits of his increase. All that devour him shall offend. Evil shall come upon them, says Yahweh.
So we were the first fruits of Yahweh, because his firstborn spirit, Israel,
put his spirit into us and gave us life, and we were married unto Yah, and we became his first fruits. So this was holiness unto Yah, because he separated us and he made us holy by putting his Holy Spirit in us, by putting his firstborn spirit in us. So this is how we originated. This is how we started. And this is the capacity that we're supposed to be walking in. Shalom, sister.
Hear you the word of Yahweh. Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 4. Hear you the word of Yahweh, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Yasharal. Thus says Yahweh, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity and are become vain? Neither said they, where is Yahweh that brought us up out of the land of Mitzrayim, that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passed through, and where no man dwelt?
So what iniquity have we found in Yah? What has he done wrong? How has he not kept his promise to cause us to walk after vanity? Vanity is uselessness. Vanity is something that is not going to yield you any lasting result. Now, the other nations can walk in the vanity of their mind because their only experience of Yahweh is how they've seen Yahweh deal with the children of Yasharal and anybody else in relation to us. So there's so much mysticism with them versus us. He came down to us. He sent his son to us. So there should be no walking in vanity because we know that is not going to work. There's not even a hope that it's going to work because we've seen what works.
Verse 7. And I brought you into a plentiful country to eat the fruit thereof and the goodness thereof. But when you entered, you defiled my land and made my heritage an abomination. The priests said not, where is Yahweh? And they that handle the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal, and walked after things that do not profit.
Now, that seems so strange. Why would we do that? You know, what would be the purpose of us walking after all these different gods in the land and doing all these things when we've seen firsthand that those gods don't exist, that they couldn't save any of those nations that came against us? What would cause us to walk after vanity and things that mean nothing to us? Anybody?
Is they're being led by a wicked spirit.
Led by a wicked spirit, most definitely. The same spirit we following after the other nations, doing what the other nations are doing. And then also, these are the nations around us. So it is the lust of our flesh that got us following after all these nations, trying to go make money with them, trying to sleep with their daughters, trying to make, power moves and money moves, trying to fit in because we were small in number. They were greater in number. We trying to assimilate and be like everybody else. This is causing us to forget the common sense that we were taught. Go ahead.
Wherefore I will yet plead with you, says Yahweh, and with your children's children will I plead. For pass over the isles of Kittim and see, and send unto Kedar, and consider diligently, and see if there be such a thing. Has a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which does not profit. Be astonished, O you heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be you very desolate, says Yahweh. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewn them out cisterns, broken cisterns, that can handle no water.
That can't hold no spirit. You've forsaken the living waters, this word, the true essence and spirit, to create cisterns of things that can't hold no spirit, that is vain, that has no purpose whatsoever. Go ahead.
Is Yasharal a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? The young lions roared upon him and yelled, and they made his land waste. His cities are burned without inhabitant. Also the children of Noph and Taphnes have broken the crown of your head. Have you not procured this unto yourself, in that you have forsaken Yahweh your Elohim when he led you by the way? And now what have you to do in the way of Mitzrayim, to drink the waters of Sihor? Or what have you to do in the way of Assyria, to drink the waters of the river? Your own wickedness shall correct you, and your backslidings shall reprove you. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter that you have forsaken Yahweh your Elohim, and that my fear is not in you, says my sovereign, Yahweh of hosts.
So your own wickedness shall correct you, and your backslidings shall reprove you. Now, that's not unique to us. That's everybody. Every man's going to reap what he sows, but y'all going to start with the household of faith. So all the judgment, all the punishment, everything going to start with us. So the punishment you see that we're getting, this is the same type of punishment the other nations are going to get. It says he who puts into captivity is going to go into captivity. So we are a warning to the rest of the nations to show this is what happens when you go against the righteousness of the Most High. But we should know better because we were given those rules to begin with.
Verse 20. For of old time I have broken your yoke and burst your bands, and you said, I will not transgress. When upon every high hill and under every green tree you wandered, playing the harlot. Yet I planted you a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then are you turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? For though you wash you with niter, and take you much soap, yet your iniquity is marked before me, says my sovereign Yahweh. How can you say, I am not polluted, I have not gone after Baalim? See your way in the valley, know what you have done. You are a swift dromedary traversing her ways.
So when it says Baalim, Baalim is the multiple of Baal. So this is multiple deities that we going after. We're not even going after one and saying this is a stronger one than ours. We grabbing a hold of anything, whatever's cool, whatever's clever, whatever is going to give us that little union with that other woman from this other nation so we can get some land or this, that, and the other. We have gone forsaken and run after vanity. And we still do the same thing because it's not like we come into this understanding as Israelites and all of a sudden we put all that stuff behind. We want to lukewarm the thing. We want to say, okay, yeah, we Hebrews on Shabbat, but then Monday through Friday and every other Sunday, we back to heathenry.
Verse 24, a wild donkey used to the wilderness that snuffs up the wind at her pleasure. In her occasion, who can turn her away? All they that seek her will not weary themselves. In her month they shall find her.
So her uncleanness is not hidden. She's a donkey on her cycle, and everywhere she goes, she's snuffing up with her nose in the air like she's all that. But at the end of the day, you don't have to find her. All you got to do is follow the trail of uncleanness. And that's how our nation is right now. I'll just follow the trail of uncleanness. Every unclean act you see out there, even though we might not have originated, we take that and we take it to the next level.
Verse 25, withhold your foot from being unshod, that your throat from thirst. But you said, there is no hope. No, for I have loved strangers, and after them will I go. As the thief is ashamed when he is found, so is the house of Yasharal ashamed. They, their kings, their princes, and their priests, and their prophets, saying to a stock, you are my father.
The cross.
And to a stone, you have brought me forth.
Islam.
For they have turned their back unto me, and their face, and not their face. But in the time of their trouble, they will arise. They will say, arise and save us. But where are your God that you have made you? Let them arise if they can save you in the time of your trouble. For according to the number of your cities are your gods, O Yehuda. Wherefore will you plead with me? You all have transgressed against me, says Yahweh.
All right, so what it's talking about, according to the cities, there are mighty ones, O Yehuda. Now, some of these mighty ones they talking about are the gods we've made up in ourselves. When we've decided, well, we the holy children, well, we this, we that, we can do what we want to do. We have free will. Didn't he not say we'll be like gods and so forth and so on? So every time we take things into our own hands and say, I don't have to follow the order of the Most High. I'm a God, I'm a mighty one. I do what I want to do. We make our own selves into gods. We don't have to call ourselves a God. But you're saying I don't have to submit to the Almighty Most High. And now the other nations, they hearing it from hearsay. They hearing it like a rumor from somebody else. But we know directly. So we are literally making ourselves gods if we are doing this.
Verse 30. In vain have I smitten your children. They received no correction. Your own sword has devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. O generation, see you the word of Yahweh. Have I been a wilderness unto Yasharal, a land of darkness? Why say my people, we have dominion, we will come no more unto you? Can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number. Why trim you your way to seek love? Therefore have you also taught the wicked ones your ways. Also in your skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these. Yet you say, because I am innocent, surely his anger shall turn from me. Behold, I will plead with you, because you say, I have not sinned.
Yet you say, my heart is pure. God knows my heart. I am a good person. Oh, that's why I don't have to keep the commandments. That's why I'm not transgressing, because I'm not transgressing the law out of evil. I'm doing it of a pure heart. That's pure lies. That's pure wickedness. And the Most High is going to deal with us. Now he has to give us the utmost chastening, because we won't even acknowledge when we do wrong. That's the first step. You got to acknowledge that you did wrong first. Then you can try to fix the situation, but we won't even get to the point that we did wrong. We want to turn around and we want to blame everybody else, or we want to blame a whole other nation of people. We want to blame a group of people that are the most genetically inferior people in the world. We want to blame them because we happen to be in this time frame. But who were they blaming back then? When it was melanin people running the world? Who were they blaming when it was Yasharal running the world? Everybody else except looking at their own actions. Go ahead.
Verse 36. Why gaddest you about so much to change your way? You also shall be ashamed of Mitzrayim, as you were ashamed of Assyria. Yea, you shall go forth from him, and your hands upon your head. For Yahweh has rejected your confidences, and you shall not prosper in them.
Yahweh rejecting everything. And all those people we call so-called coons, I don't really use that word too often, but you know what we talking about. You putting your confidence in the other nations like they gonna save you. Yahweh gonna make a point. The same point he making right here. You run into Egypt, same people had you in slavery. You run into Syria, the same people that had you in slavery, thinking that they gonna help you fight against these other nations that are trying to kill you. They gonna fight against Babylon for you, so that you can be okay. Not realizing the Most High is stirring up these nations against you because you are not doing righteousness when you're supposed to be a holy people. So this is the same pattern happening over and over and over and over and over and over again. From one captivity to the next, from one chastening to the next, from one slaughtering to the next. Let's go back. Let's go to Bereshit, Genesis chapter 15. You had some, Elder?
Yeah, what you're saying is true, because Yahweh is trying to show us the same mistakes we keep making.
I need you to speak up, Elder.
Let's say Yahweh is warning us, in Jeremiah, that we keep making the same mistakes we made before. I mean, even 2 Kings, chapter 30, Psalm 17:30 is telling about the same thing when he replaced his children in the cities with foreigners.
Right.
Because they wasn't doing right. And they don't seem to understand, we still understand that if we consistently run after these other gods and don't read who the Bible tells Elohim really is, and follow his ways, we end up the same way, because now we giving all our glory, to the enemy. You know what I mean? And we the enemy's, how you say, the enemy's justice, or the enemy has charge to do anything he wills with us, because we gave our power unto them. And Yahweh is trying to tell you, do not give your glory unto these idols. You know, because if you do, then they are your gods, and you is accepted to whatever they're going to do to you. You know, but Yahweh, if you're his child and you go through these things, he's worthy to hold our hands and deliver us from these things. We just have to hold our faith toward Yahweh, you know, to the end. You know, and that's what shows the world his light. You know, so this is what he's trying to remind us. He already said right there, you're giving the, you know, you're saying to the stock, "By all my Father," and we know what the stock of wood is. You know that Christianity deals in that situation. Then you're looking at the stone, which Muslims deal with that. You know, but how many other belief systems deal in these solely idols? So we have to look at these things where Yahweh trying to tell us, and how the mistakes that we continually make.
Right, right. And he makes that point because we always run into them same nations that had us in captivity. You look at all those nations, and we're going to go over quite a few of them. All those nations, Egypt, Assyria, the Philistines. Can't nobody even really tell you where the Philistines at right now. You know, there's a group of people claiming to be them. But these nations are destroyed. They will never, ever be a superpower again. Every nation that had us captive, as soon as we were released, they were never, ever a superpower again. But yet we still keep trying to run to these other nations to protect us from the wrath of the Most High. There's no place you can go to in this earth or in heaven that you can run from the wrath of the Most High. We want to do everything other than address the issue. And then Yahweh makes it even easier. He sends prophets. He given us the word and miracles was enough. He could have just wrote all that in a book and said, "This is what you need to do, and this is what happened when you didn't do it." But he goes a step further. He sends prophets after prophet after prophet to tell you, to warn you, "Hey, remember when I said this? Remember when this happened before? Well, it's going to happen again." And we still don't listen. Then he goes even further and sends his son in the likeness of us, and we still don't listen. But then we act stupid when this stuff happens and want to walk around with a sign talking about "my life matters." No, it don't. It don't matter to you, so why should it matter to everybody else? If it mattered to you, you would follow the instructions of how to live life more abundantly. It's different if you're doing it in ignorance, but everybody got a Bible. Everybody got a Bible in their house. If not your house, your grandma's house. So there ain't no excuse. Genesis chapter 15. Bereshit chapter 15, and to start this at verse 1.
After these things, the word of Yahweh came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, "Fear not, Abram. I am your shield, and your exceeding great reward." And Abram said, "My sovereign Yahweh, what will you give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus." And Abram said, "Behold, to me you have given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir." And behold, the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, "This shall not be your heir, but he that shall come forth out of your own bowels shall be your heir." And he brought him forth abroad and said, "Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if you be able to number them." And he said unto him, "So shall your seed be." And he believed in Yahweh, and he counted it to him for righteousness.
So Abram believed in Yahweh's words, and Yahweh counted it to him for righteousness. He counted it to him for righteousness probably because once you believe in the words of Yah, that's going to change your actions. If he's telling you you're going to be a royal tribe, you're going to have inheritance, you're going to have all these different things, you're going to try to walk differently if you believe Yah. But if you're like, he ain't finna do nothing, you're going to continue doing the things you do or can allow yourself to deteriorate to a certain place. When are we going to get to the point where we believe Yah? This is half of the reason we going through the things we going through right now is because we don't believe Yah. We think there's some other way around this. We just captive because everybody else evil. The whole world is just evil. We just good people. The whole world is evil. So we just got to stop the evil people. When are you going to realize, or when we going to realize we are the evil people? This is why these things are happening to us. So if we would believe Yah's word, that gets rid of a good 90% of the evil. Then the rest is just discipline. But majority of that is just believing. Because if you believe, you're going to put forth your effort to make those changes in your actions. But we don't believe. We believe with our mouth. What does it say? My people worship me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. That's because our heart is full of rock and has disbelief. But what we do believe when we get our behinds handed to us. Because as soon as that happens, we turn right to the Father. Save me. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And he said unto him, I am Yahweh that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, My sovereign Yahweh, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid...
What verse are you in?
I'm at verse 10.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him.
All right, so you see how he's taking all these animals and goats and this, that, and the other, and he's making a covenant. That when you look up the word covenant, it is literally, bloodshed of cutting an animal. I think it was, we even believe a heifer is what they would cut in the definition of covenant. So he's making a covenant. All covenants are sealed with blood. Go ahead.
Verse 13, and he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that your seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
All right, so some people believe that this prophecy has already come to pass. It says, Know of a surety that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Okay, so we were in Egypt for over 400 some years. Was it 430 years or something like that to the self same day? So people say, well, he's a little bit off, 30 years off, whatever. Nah, the Most High ain't off. He ain't going to say the self same day then be 30 some years off on a prophecy. In addition, where did we stay when we were in Egypt? What part of Egypt were we in?
Goshen.
And where's Goshen?
Closer toward Israel.
On the other side of the Nile, which is our inheritance. That is Abraham's inheritance. That was our land. So we were not strangers in a land that didn't belong to us. Goshen is eastward of the Nile River. And that is the border of our land from the Nile to the Euphrates. Not the other side of the Nile, because then you'd have to go around the whole other side of the earth. No, from the Nile to the Euphrates. From the west side all the way to the Euphrates on the eastern. That was our inheritance. So that could not be the land that they were talking about for 400 years. Go ahead.
Verse.
Excuse me, brother.
Go ahead, Elder.
Just wanted to add 2 things on that. For one, when you saw Moshe, protecting the covenant and keeping the fowls of the air from devouring the carcasses, you got to look at that another way too. You have to look at that. Our people was also for the fowls of the air, because when we was hanging from trees and so forth in this country, there was no one to push the fowls of the air from destroying our carcasses, our brothers and sisters, our ancestors there. There was no protection there. When they talk about being slaves, you was only like slaves in Israel 210 years. We had freedoms and businesses and so forth. We lived well, with our families before they wind up so-called getting wise with us and then making us slaves because they're afraid of our immense population in that country. But they forgot about the Elohim of our fathers. But, this country, we've been here for a very long time. We were slaves for a very long time. We still are level of slavery because our people represent 57% to 70% in the prison houses, and we only 14% of our population in the United States.
Right.
And then you look at, in Constitution, we still 3/5 of a human being, but everybody else in the world are equal to one. So we're not even balanced with the rest of the world.
Right.
So we're still look at his chatter. So if you look at that, there's no one else in this history book that can say that they are the people except us, because our people is going through these things. So it's just something that I want to put out there that people can look at these verses with minimal depth, understand this is us, period.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, still to this day, they got us 3/5 of a person, so that they could pay less taxes on owning us. They call us by color. They call us nigger, which is black in Greek. They call us that so they could put us as a product instead of a nationality. They didn't call the other nations that. They called the other nations by what they were. You were a Spaniard, or you were a Greek, or you were a Hamite. If you were to talk about a whole bloodline, they had names, but us, they made us property. Go ahead, finish that up, Op.
Genesis chapter 15 and verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance.
All right, now I was talking about coming out with great substance. What good is coming out with a bunch of American dollars going to do for us? To a nation that's going to be destroyed, and a monetary system that's going to be destroyed. But I'll tell you what would be great substance. You come out, you went into that country, broken and not knowing. You grew up not knowing who you are, not knowing who to serve, not knowing how the directions to get directly back to your Father. And you leave with full instruction, with all the prophecies behind you, with angels behind you, into the country where money can't even buy you safety in those times. That is great substance. So we got to stop looking at a blessing always to come in a dollar sign or money, because that's God worship. Gawd, which is the deity of fortune, a Canaanite deity of fortune. That's associated with that. Great substance is spiritual blessing. And you are spiritually blessed, just like Yaakov was blessed. Everything he touched multiplied. They gave him the speckled sheep, then the speckled sheep that multiplied out this world.
Verse 15. And you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come here again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto your seed have I given this land, from the river of Mitzrayim unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
So the Nile to the Euphrates in Goshen, if you're looking at the camera, then Goshen is here on this side. Euphrates is here, over here. So we were in our land and our inheritance of our forefathers. So they can't be talking about that land. Go ahead.
Verse 19. The Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
And the Jebusites is where Jerusalem was. So if you want to know where Jerusalem is, just Google Jebusites, or do a search in the Bible for Jebusites, and listen to how they describe the land of the Jebusites. They lived in the mountains. So they were high up. So that means Jerusalem can't be low down in a valley. But that's very symbolic, because we are very low right now. We have been humbled. But that's not Jerusalem, according to the land. And again, like I mentioned earlier, if you look at that word covenant, you see what Abraham was doing here, and what was also being symbolized with what the elder was talking about, how we were that strange fruit hanging from the tree. But here, when you're talking about dividing these animals, this is a covenant. This is the blood covenant being made. So this is the actual blood spilling of it. Then the contract, what I'm giving you, all these things are being told and is being sealed in blood. So if you look at that word for covenant, is berith. Berith, spelled Beriyth. And that's H1285. And that's from H1262 in the sense of cutting, like a compact, because made by passing between two pieces of flesh. Confederacy, Confederate Covenant League. So this was symbolized by bloodshed, because once an animal was killed, there ain't no changing that. That animal's dead. You're not bringing the animal back. You cut the animal in half, he ain't running back. All right, so again, Israel dwelled in Goshen. We're going to read that real quick. Let's just go to Exodus 9 and 26 real quick. Shemot chapter 9 and 26, so you can see where we stayed in Egypt. Because you have non-believers trying to convince you that this 400 years of captivity happened in Egypt. That's what Jewish people try to say. All that happened, we were slaves in Egypt. First of all, no, you weren't. You weren't slaves in Egypt. You might have been slaves in Europe, but you weren't slaves in Egypt. Exodus chapter 9 and verse 26 to show you where we were. Shemot 9 and 26. Go ahead and read that, brother.
Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Yasharal were, was there no hail.
Right. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Yasharal were. And if you read more of the story, Yosef told them. Yahweh said, tell them you're sheep herders. And that is abomination to herd goats and ox and all that stuff to the Egyptians, because the Egyptians worshiped all this stuff. They had men with ox heads and goat heads and all that type of stuff. So when we over there worshiping these animals and eating these animals and doing all that stuff, that was abomination to those Egyptians. That's why their culture is highly vegan. They worship a lot of these creatures. And then now you see us staying over there, and because of that, we were abomination to them, so they pushed us way over on the other side into Goshen. Now, we're going to see that we were in Egypt for 430 years. Go to Shemot chapter 12, Exodus chapter 12. So Yahweh not going to say the self-same day just to be 30 years off. Shemot chapter 12 and verse 40. And read that through 41.
Now the sojourning of the children of Yasharal who dwelt in Mitzrayim, Egypt, was 430 years.
430 years, not 400 years. There's a difference. If Yahweh say in 7 days you going to keep the Shabbat, in 7 days you going to keep the Shabbat. Not in 8 days on the first day of the week. Go ahead.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Mitzrayim.
Even the same day we came in, all the way to the day. Not even the year, because you could be in the year and be okay. But no, the self-same day. Just to make his example, the self-same day. So what would this have to do with way, way down the line? He purposely made it that way. Let's go to Yeshayahu chapter 7, Isaiah chapter 7. That's why we can't let people that don't believe, that worship, gods that sleep with other male gods sleeping with male gods. You shouldn't listen to nobody where they God sleep with another male god. They should have no say-so or have nothing to say about your culture whatsoever. Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 7. And we're going to start this at verse 1. Because we could even go and even the brother Zion Lex, he's doing a lot of studies decoding this hieroglyphics and seeing so much relation to Hebrews. We were in there. If you go into Flavius Josephus and you go into Jubilees and all that, it tells you. History books show you where a lot of these nations got their wisdom from. Egypt got their wisdom from Abram, when Abram came over there. And where did Abram get his wisdom from? Babylon. That's where he was from. So the Babylonian culture was way before the Egyptian culture. Way before. So they like to claim because we're a new nation in the earth that was specially chosen and came, like our forefathers didn't exist. Like Yahweh wasn't dealing with our forefathers all the way up to Adam. Isaiah, Yeshayahu, chapter 7, let's start this at verse 1.
And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, the king of Yehuda, that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Yasharal, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it.
So here you have again, you have these nations coming up against being confederate with other nations, trying to fight other nations because we trying to escape the punishment of the Most High. But at the end of the day, Yahweh get tired of your stuff, he cutting you off. So what we're going to see here, he's getting ready to cut off the northern tribes. But before he does that, because he's such a great God and things don't happen by happenstance, he's going to warn us. And the prophets are going to tell us what's going to happen before it happens. You're not going to find that in any other book. You're not going to find that in the Book of the Dead. You ain't going to find that in the Book of Hindus. The little fat dude that used to be black, but now he white in Buddha or whatever. You're not going to find it with him. You're not going to find it with Gandhi or any of these other so-called great people. You're not going to find any of these prophecies being fulfilled hundreds of years later, thousands of years later, and in a time frame where we can verify it in history books.
Verse 2, and it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim, and his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood are moved with the wind.
We're not supposed to make covenants with other nations. Period. We are not supposed to make covenants, especially those nations around us.
Then said Yahweh unto Isaiah, Go forth now to meet Ahaz, you and Shir Yashub, your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field, and say unto him, Take heed and be quiet, fear not, neither be faint-hearted. For the two tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria and of the son of Remaliah. Because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against you, saying, Let us go up against Yehuda and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, even the son of Tibial. Thus says the sovereign Yahweh, It shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin, and within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people.
So in 65 years, Ephraim, which is like the capital of northern Israel, like Samaria, that's representing the northern tribes, is going to be broken, that it be not a people. This is why you had a situation where Yeshua had that woman at the well, and she's like, wait a minute, are you greater than our father Yaakov? And why are you talking to me? The Yehudim have no dealings with us, because the northern tribes weren't supposed to be a people. They were cut off. They're no longer a people. They were no part. They're like a family removed. Like they say, you know, such and such twice removed from a family or whatever. They weren't even a nation anymore. But that's how it got to the point where our whole nation was removed. Well, we not even a nation no more. We just coming back into the understanding of who we were. Go ahead.
And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established.
All right, let's stop right there. So you're seeing the Ephraim being prophesied to be cut off. And now we go into that chapter that the elder was talking about earlier, 2 Kings chapter 17, and you're going to see northern Israel being shipped off. And by the way, none of these people we talking about were non-melanated people. None of these people. And all the children of Yasharal in this time, when they were in the land, knew they was Yasharal. Knew who Yahweh was, knew what the law was.
Of 2 Kings chapter 17.
What is that? Debris Melachim, chapter 17. Debris Malachim, chapter 17. And shalom, Andrew Lewis Shivers. Good to see you.
In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Yehuda, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Yasharal 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, but not as the kings of Yasharal that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Mitzrayim, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year before the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years.
And then we just talk about that. Ephraim and the head of Samaria, Ephraim, Samaria, and so forth and so on. And it's talking about Israel. When they say Israel, you got to read things in proper context. At this point, you have the northern tribes being referred to as the house of Israel, and the southern tribes being referred to as the house of Judah, the southern kingdom. Go ahead.
Verse 6. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Yasharal away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in Habor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. For so it was that the children of Yasharal had sinned against Yahweh their Elohim, which had brought them up out of the land of Mitzrayim from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim, and had feared other gods and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahweh cast out from before the children of Yasharal and of the kings of Yasharal, which they had made.
Now, when it's talking about fearing other gods, again, God is like Greek word. We see that. We think always, some mystical guy with a lightning bolt in his hand. Gods or mighty ones or sovereigns could also be the master of a land or a president or a leader of a country or whatever. When you fear a system or you fear a government over the fear of the Most High, you are fearing other gods. Those are mighty ones. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahweh cast out from before the children of Yasharal, and of the kings of Yasharal, which they had made.
When you walk in the way of this world, adverse to the way of Yah, you are walking in the way of the heathens. Just that simple. It ain't like, live and let live. No, Israel, we belong to Yah. We were purchased with a price. A body died for us. And when we decide that we are going to walk the way the other nations walk, we are doing a huge disservice to our nation and blowing up a smoke in the nostrils of Yah. That's like a wife walking against the husband's will and walking into some wicked practice. Not just disagreeing, but disagreeing and walking into a wicked practice while she's reconciled to him. That's going to be a huge problem.
Verse 9, and the children of Yasharal did secretly those things that were not right against Yahweh their Elohim. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree.
Now, you figure, well, why would they be setting themselves up so high? Why do they feel like they got to be so high to worship these gods? What do you get high to see? You get high to have a better perspective of the sky. You get high to see over the city and see all these different things. But when you want to go look at the moon, you want to go look at the sun, you got to get to high elevation. When we used to track those things for calendar purposes, we didn't go sit down in our house and look up. We got up to the mountains. We did what we had to do. So this is what they did. The same thing these nations are doing now. Having all these big giant pyramids with that line up with stars and moons and all. That's all idol worship. They're worshiping the host of heaven instead of using it as a calendar system or a clock, a time system.
Verse 11, and there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom Yahweh carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke Yahweh to anger. For they served idols whereof Yahweh had said unto them, you shall not do this thing. Yet Yahweh testified against Yasharal and against Yehudah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn you from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes according to all the law which I commanded your fathers and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in Yahweh their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom Yahweh had charged them that they should not do like them.
So what I know we have discussed this before, but what's the difference between murder and killing?
Suppose one has guilty intent.
Go ahead, Elder.
Premeditation. You thought about it, and you planned it, and you went through your plans and murdered an individual or many individuals.
Okay.
But to kill somebody can be accidentally, like an axe handle coming off the back while you doing work, and you might have hit somebody with it and struck him in the head or heart and killed him. Self-defense.
Okay. What if Yahweh tells you to do it and it's premeditated? Is that still murder?
Yeah, but it's premeditated as murder. No, if Yahweh tell you to do it, it's not.
Right. So it's not, because Yahweh is not going to tell us to do wickedness. Now, if Yahweh has us come into a land and exterminate a people, to wipe a people, even the animals, off of the land, because they are doing wickedness in a land that belongs to our forefathers, and we now go into that land and we do the same thing that the judgment was murder for those people doing those things, we have now turned an act where we are supposed to be doing the works of the Most High, and we have turned ourselves into murderers. And this is why Yahweh had to kill us and remove us from the land, because we have now turned his righteousness into wickedness. Now we have premeditated this. We have decided we know that we came and moved these people off the land for doing this wicked act, but we are going to premeditate this act, and now it's a premeditated killing.
Verse 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 13. Yet Yahweh testified against Yasharal and against Yehuda by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn you from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants, the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in Yahweh their Elohim. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom Yahweh had charged them that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahweh their Elohim, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fires, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. Therefore Yahweh was very angry with Yasharal, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Yehuda only.
So he removed all the northern tribes, and Levi went with them. All the tribes were removed, except for Yehuda and Benjamin. Go ahead.
Also,
go ahead, Elder.
Yeah, I got one question. Is this where our people lost our holy book, our Torah?
That's a good question.
I really think this is when they lost, when Yahweh, dealt with them. I think this is where they lost the knowledge of the word at the time, and it went from them. If I remember straight, I can't remember, but this reminded me of that. Where this is the pinnacle point. Where remember when we read where they discovered the book.
Josiah, right?
Josiah, right. I think that's when they found it. People found it again, but I think this is where we lost it, right here.
That makes sense, because it says clearly, it says there that we forgot all the statutes and commandments. Verse 16, they left all the commandments of Yahweh their Elohim. So it didn't say we left a few, we left them all. So if we left them all, eventually I would imagine the book would have been lost, because we're not even going to want to look in there, because then that's going to further prove us wrong. So it could be. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'll definitely have to look into that.
2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 20. And Yahweh rejected all the seed of Yasharal, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Yasharal from the house of Dawid, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drave Yasharal from following Yahweh, and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Yasharal walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did. They departed not from them, until Yahweh removed Yasharal out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Yasharal carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
All right. So now from this verse on, you're going to see how those people that look like us, that are in our land, that have a lot of our culture, got into our land. You're going to see how they got into our land. And there's going to be some clues in here when they have certain people calling themselves Jews, which by, history standpoint, we never called ourselves Jews. We were Israelites. We were Yasharal. But, for Jews, you got different types of Jews where you have some that call themselves Ashkenazi Jew. You can go to Genesis chapter 10 and you can see clearly Ashkenaz is not even from the same bloodline. It's not even Shem. That's Japheth. And then you have another term they use now, Sephardic Jew. And you're going to see these people of Sephardim was put into the land. They're not from that land. They're not even from the same branch as Abraham. They Hebrews, but they're not from the same branch as Abraham. Go ahead.
Verse 24, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuttah and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sepharvaim and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Yasharal, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof.
So this is how you have people that say, we've been here for thousands of years, and now you Euro Gentiles going to come in here and kick us off our land. We stole this land first. Go ahead.
And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh sent lions among them, which slew some of them.
Now here's the difference between the heathen and us. We getting killed and say we getting slewed by lions. We walking around with signs trying to tell the lions to stop eating us. Hebrew lives matter. Stop eating us, lions. Go eat a giraffe or something. Stop eating us. But look what the heathens do when they get ate by lions.
Wherefore they spoke to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which you have removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of Elohim of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of Elohim in the land.
All right. So they had enough sense to say, listen, we don't know the manner of the Elohim of the land. So we are getting slayed by lions. That's why lions are eating us. Not because lions are just wild and like to eat people. No, because the Elohim of the land is pissed off with us because we don't know the manner of the land. Well, guess what? This is Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem right here. We are the land, Jerusalem. We are the people. We are the body. And if we don't know the manner of the Elohim of this land here, we getting ate up by lions. That's why every 6 o'clock you turn on the news, you seen us getting ate up by lions. Why don't we have that same common sense? Go ahead.
Verse 27, then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry there one of the priests whom you brought from there, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the Elohim of the land. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear Yahweh. And
because they're being taught by priests that aren't really qualified priests, because when you read of how they were doing priests in northern Israel, if I owed you money, hey, I owe you $50, but hey, listen, I'll make you a priest and we even. Now you can get some tithes from these other poor people here that need to give you something. So they're learning the law. It's kind of like our land, but these people are already intermixed with all the other nations and carrying all these heathen practices. That was the whole reason they was kicked out first. So now you have those kind of priests teaching the heathens of the land how to live, and it was good enough to satisfy Yahweh because they weren't under the covenant. Go ahead.
Then
29.
Verse 29, howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places which the Samaritans had made. Every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt.
So they worship Yah because they didn't want to get killed to a certain extent, but they kept their own gods. And then we think we're going to do the same thing, but they don't know Yah. Yah didn't come to them. They know Yah because they said, listen, We know we getting dealt with by the people of this land. We've heard the stories. We know how Yah operates from the stories, but they don't know Yah. So it's okay for them to do that, and they get away with it because eventually Yah's going to show himself to them. Now, in that 1,000 years, now Yah has shown himself to them. Now they have their chance to try to follow these laws. But us, we can't do that. We can't have Yahweh on Shabbat and then have 6 other gods or other days of the week. It's not going to work. Only Lucifer say, listen, I don't care. Just fall down and worship me. I ain't tell you couldn't worship Yah. I just said fall down and worship me too. That's how you worship the adversary of the devil. Yah said you will worship no other mighty one but me.
Verse 30. And the men of Babylon made Succoth Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Avites made Nebaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in the fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, and the mighty ones of Sepharvaim. So they feared Yahweh and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared Yahweh and served their own gods after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from there. Unto this day they do after their former matters. They fear not Yahweh. Neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law of the commandment which Yahweh commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Yasharal, with whom Yahweh had made a covenant and charged them, saying, You shall not fear other gods, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But Yahweh, who brought you up out of the land of Mitzrayim with great power and a stretched out arm, him shall you fear, and him shall you worship, and to him shall you do sacrifice. And the statutes and the ordinances of the law and the commandment which he wrote for you, you shall observe to do forevermore, and you shall not fear other gods. And the covenant that I have made with you, you shall not forget, neither shall you fear other gods. But Yahweh, your Elohim, you shall fear, and he shall deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies. Howbeit they did not hearken, but they did after their former manner. So these nations feared Yahweh and served their graven images, both their children and the children's children, as did their fathers, so do they unto this day.
So do they unto this day with all their idolatry. Those other nations that are in our land are still doing that to this day. But they have some of our practices. And then they like to claim that they us because they got some of our practices. A dude walk around with a pair of some fringes, but he worshiping ancestors, and we calling him Israel because he got fringes. So what, the America fringes, the Europeans, they Israel too because they put fringes on their flag? That don't make any sense. But you see, they do what they want to do. They fear Yahweh to an extent, but they do what they want to do. That's why they're doing the same thing in our land. They so-called do circumcision, but you got some perverted white man sitting there biting the foreskin off a baby penis, giving them herpes and all kind of craziness. They doing what their God tell them to do, putting their children through the fire. Now the child got herpes, born with herpes, but yet they trying to copy our practices. They trying to hedge all their bets because they don't know who the real God is. They don't know nothing. Nope, they don't had no real Elohim. They've had the angels, the fallen ones come to them, but they don't really know who the Most High is. But we do, because we have been chosen specifically, and he has made covenant with us. So there's no excuse for us to do that. That's why we are facing the ultimate punishment from one captivity to the next. Let's move on. Let's go to Yeshayahu chapter 50. Isaiah chapter 50. Yeshayahu chapter 50. Countless times Yah has had those heart-to-hearts with us through his prophets like, yo, let's chill for a second. Let's sit down. Let's talk. I'm tired of beating you. And even with my own children, it gets to a point when I see my children, you know, it happens very rarely. But sometimes, you know, especially the older ones, they in their little puberty and tween age and all that stuff, they get a little out of hand and I have to punish them. And it gets to a point where I see like, wait a minute, if I step this punishment up anymore, it's going to cause some real damage to them. And if I have to do it, I got to do it. But let's try something different because it's not working. They so caught up in their foolishness right now, they can't think straightly. So maybe I need to pull back a little bit because I don't want to destroy them. I love them. I want to help them. I want them to learn from the punishment. So if I see that they can't learn from the punishment, I don't want to destroy the people I love. I got to have a heart to heart. And you see countless times the prophets come and trying to have heart to hearts. And what did we do? We try to kill them. Yesharal, Isaiah chapter 50, and let's start this at verse 1.
Thus says Yahweh, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities you have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away.
Your own actions cause you to be in this situation. Yahweh not a man that, he was short on, he had lost some gambling from to other gods and owed money. So he said, here's my daughter. Let me sell my daughter into whoredom so I can pay back my debt. Because that's what the children of Israel were doing. Because that was a practice of other people in the other land. They would sell their women into whoredom. That's why we had servants from all these other different nations working for us. Now, we wouldn't necessarily treat them as whores. But when we go to these other nations and we go to other people, we were treated like that. And that's why he had to even make a law saying, no, you will not prostitute your daughters. There shall be no whore in the children of Yasharal. So Yahweh is like, look at the wickedness of your ways. Show me how I'm doing this. You are causing these own actions on yourself.
Verse 2. Wherefore, when I came, there was no man. When I called, there was none to answer. Is my hand shortened at all, that it cannot redeem? Or have I no power to deliver? Behold, at my rebuke I dry up the sea. I make the rivers a wilderness. Their fish stinks, because there is no water, and dies for thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness, and I make sackcloth their covering. My sovereign Yahweh has given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. He wakes morning by morning. He wakes my ear to hear as the learned. My sovereign Yahweh has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, neither turned away back. I gave my back to the smiters, and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair. I hid not my face from shame and spitting. For my sovereign Yahweh will help me, therefore shall I not be confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed. He is near that justifies me. Who will contend with me? Let us stand together. Who is mine adversary? Let him come near to me. Behold, my sovereign Yahweh will help me. Who is he that shall condemn me? Lo, they all wax old as a garment. The moth shall eat them up. Who is among you that fears Yahweh, that obeys the voice of his servant, that walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of Yahweh and stay upon his Elohim. Behold, all you that kindle a fire and compass yourselves about with sparks, walk in the light of your fire. In the sparks that you have kindled, this shall you have of my hand. You shall lie down in sorrow.
All right. Let's go back to Jeremiah chapter 29. And now we're going to see this 70-year Babylonian captivity. He doesn't just jump to 400 years. He goes little by little by little by little and jumps into that captivity to the point where we got to where we're at now. Jeremiah. Go ahead, Elder.
I think verse 6 that we just read, I gave my back to the smiters and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair. I hid not my face from shame and spittle. That's talking about Yeshua.
Right.
He was showing us how to deal with these evil-led people, and by doing so, in that time, it gave Yahweh glory because we didn't allow the adversary to break the spirit that we had inside of us to do right before Yah.
Right.
So I just want to bring that point out so people can see that.
Right. And it says that, Yahshua suffered the consequences of sinners because that's what you do to sinners. There's certain sins where, you didn't raise up seed. They had to spit in your face and you had to be the dude with one shoe. And then you had other ways they smited you where, talking about, not keeping certain commandments. They snatch a patch out your beard. They plucking hair off his face. He's getting stripes, whipped. Meanwhile, all he's doing is speaking the pure words of the Most High, trying to save his people. But yet he freely does it because he knows Yah is going to be his savior in the end. So when we go through our tribulation, let us receive the tribulation on the side of righteousness. And when we receive it on the side of chastening, let's turn that chastening into righteousness on our behalf by dealing with the chastening and learning from it and being patient through it and not running away from it. Just like this servant who was giving his back to the smiters and letting them deal with him like that because the Most High has him doing this job for his nation.
Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 1. Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders which were carried away captives, to the priests and to the prophets, and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. After that, Jeconiah the king and the queen, and the eunuchs, the princes of Yehuda and Jerusalem, and the carpenters and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem, by the hand of Elasah the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah king of Yehuda sent unto Babylon to Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, saying, Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, unto all that are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build you houses and dwell in them, plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Take you wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that you may be increased there and not diminished. And seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yahweh for it, for in the peace thereof shall you have peace.
So when you realize that you are going into captivity, pack a bag, stay there, start setting up shop. Stop listening to these other people trying to tell you, oh, you're going to flee this punishment. When Yahweh sets that punishment, you're going to deal with that punishment. So if Yahweh says 70 years, you finna be there 70 years. That's not because you see a way out, you just going to escape. Everybody that did that got dealt with that flee doctrine, trying to run away from the punishment. So at the end of the day, Yah said, listen, you're going to be in captivity, but you can have more peace during this captivity if you accept this punishment and you deal with it. The same thing I was talking about just a couple minutes ago. When you are receiving your chastening, you deal with it, you learn with it, you accept it, and you grow from it. Anybody who had a father, grew up with a father in that household, if your father tell you, you are grounded, you better not step outside that door. If your daddy came home from work, he seen you out there in the front yard throwing that football, what you think was going to happen to you? He won't say, oh, you know what? Let him be. You're okay. Have fun. Let me catch the ball, son. No, you finna go in the house and you finna get your behind toe up because you didn't respect the law that your father set down. If your father punished you, you got to deal with it. Running away from it ain't going to help.
Verse 7. And seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yahweh for it. For in the peace thereof shall you have peace. For thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, let not your prophets and your diviners that be in the midst of you deceive you, neither hearken to your dreams, which you cause to be dreamed. For they prophesy falsely unto you in my name. I have not sent them, says Yahweh.
And how you know that Yahweh has not sent them? Partly is the thing that they say is going to happen, don't happen. But also what's going to happen is they're going to try to prophesy some kind of good result for you without you repenting or changing or fixing what you're doing wrong. That's how you know Yahweh didn't send those people. Because Yahweh not going to reward us for doing wickedness. Go ahead.
Verse 10. For thus says Yahweh, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you in causing you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says Yahweh, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall you call upon me, and you shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And you shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, says Yahweh, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, says Yahweh.
All right, so he's telling you right there. For thus says Yahweh, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you. This has been documented. We can prove this. These kings' names are still in the record books. We can look these kings' names up and we can get dates when we was there. Show me one other nationality that can do this, that had their God, that had somebody they call prophet. What was Muhammad's prophecy? Where was his dates? What was the other dude? Nostradamus. Where was his dates in prophecy? Oh, a bad thing is going to happen and a huge thing is going to fall and people are going to get hurt. What kind of prophecy is that? Our Elohim giving us dates, times, and specific people that this is going to happen to, and warnings for people that are going to try to escape it. Go ahead.
Verse 14, and I will be found of you, says Yahweh, and I will turn away your captivity and will gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, says Yahweh, and I will bring you again into the place where I caused you to be carried away captive.
He's even prophesying a prophecy even further than the prophecy he's prophesying about in the same statement. He's talking about all the nations. First of all, Babylon won all the nations. That was one realm that was being controlled, and they had more than just their own land. They were control over a portion of the world as well. But he's talking about gathering you from all these nations. So he's talking about another captivity even further out. So there's prophecies within prophecies. When you're looking at a prophecy, there's the near prophecy and there's a far prophecy. Go ahead.
Verse 15, because you have said, Yahweh has raised us up prophets in Babylon. Know that thus says Yahweh of the king that sits upon the throne of Dawid, and of all the people that dwell in this city, and of your brethren that are not gone forth with you into captivity. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, behold, I will send upon them the sword and famine and the pestilence, and will make them like vile figs that cannot be eaten. They are so evil. And I will persecute them with the sword and with the famine and with pestilence, and will deliver them to be removed to all the kingdoms of the earth, to be a curse and an astonishment and a hissing and a reproach among all the nations where I have driven them.
So these are the people that did not go into captivity. People that fled, people that just, were able to escape this, that, and the other. Yahweh dealing with them because you're not going to escape the punishment, because Yahweh deals with us as a nation. He can deal with people as individuals. He does, just like I deal with my family and individuals. But at the end of the day, it's all about how does this affect the nation as a whole? So he's dealing with us as a nation. So that's why we can't get up and flee and say we just going to flee and we just going to run to Israel right now. And we just going to stay in an inhabited land, in a city that's not even the city that they say it is, and think that everything is going to be all right with us. Nah, you finna still suffer the curses. You just going to suffer it over there. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Because they have not hearkened unto my words, says Yahweh, which I sent unto them by my servants the prophets, rising up early and sending them. But you would not hear, says Yahweh. Hear you therefore the word of Yahweh, all you of the captivity, whom I have sent from Jerusalem to Babylon. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, of Habhab, the son of Koliah, and of Zedekiah, the son of Messiah, which prophesy a lie unto you in my name. Behold, I will deliver them into the hand of Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon, and he shall slay them before your eyes. And of them shall be taken up a curse by all the captivity of Yehudah which are in Babylon, saying, Yahweh make you like Zedekiah and like Ahab, whom the king of Babylon roasted in the fire, because they have committed villainy in Israel, and have committed adultery with their neighbors' wives, and have spoken lying words in my name, which I have not commanded them. Even I know, and am a witness, says Yahweh. Thus shall you also speak to Shemaiah and the Nehelamite, saying, Thus speaks Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, saying, because you have sent letters in my name unto all the people that are at Jerusalem, and to Zephaniah, the son of Messiah, the priest, and to all the priests, saying, Yahweh has made you a priest in the stead of Jehoiada, the priest, that you should be officers in the house of Yahweh. For every man that is mad and makes himself a prophet, that you should put him in prison and in the stocks. Now therefore, why have you not reproved Jeremiah of Ananoth, which makes himself a prophet to you? Therefore he sent unto us in Babylon, saying, This captivity is long. Build you houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. And Zephaniah the priest read this letter in the ears of Jeremiah the prophet. Then came the word of Yahweh unto Jeremiah, saying, Send to all of them of the captivity, saying, Thus says Yahweh concerning Shemaiah the Nehelamite, because Shemaiah has prophesied unto you, and I sent him not, and caused you to trust in a lie. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, Behold, I will punish Shemaiah the Nehelamite and his seed. He shall not have a man to dwell among his people, neither shall he behold good. That I will do for my people, says Yahweh, because he has taught rebellion against Yahweh.
He has taught rebellion against Yahweh because he's teaching the people that you don't have to deal with the punishment of Yah. That a man can deliver you from the punishment of Yah. You will only be delivered as a nation when Yahweh say your time is up. And in this situation, he told you point blank, 70 years. But hey, you want to be well amongst the children of Yasharal, tell them they not going to be punished for the punishment that is due to them for their wicked deeds. And you're going to be well popular amongst the children of Yasharal. That's why every first day, every last one of these churches are filled to capacity. Filled to capacity. You got pastors that can barely read. Ain't even really interesting. But they fill to capacity because people go to hear the words that's telling them they don't have to change. Everything going to be all right for you. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 24. So, you know, we keep hearing about how northern Israel sent off and northern Israel this and we, you know, kingdom of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and Yehuda. We think we the holy smokes. We what they call the Jews of Judea, that we these great people. Nope. We was removed too. Obviously. Divri Melakim chapter 24. Let me see where we want to start this. Let's start this at verse. Let's go to 25, chapter 25. Start this at verse 1.
And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came, he and all his host, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about.
Just real quick, look at this graphic right here. These are the kings of Israel and Yehuda. Notice this.
Evil, mostly evil.
Evil, evil, righteous, mostly righteous. Evil, 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 mostly evil. Evil, 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 mostly evil. Evil, 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 righteous, righteous. Evil, 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 righteous, mostly righteous. Righteous, righteous, evil, righteous. Evil, evil, righteous, evil, 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 evil. This is our history. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the history of our kings in Israel. And you wonder why we are in the captivity that we're in right now in the study notes. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just one of the study notes. 2 Kings chapter 25 and verse 2. Did you finish that verse 1?
Uh-huh.
All right.
I'll go ahead and start at 1 again.
Okay.
And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came, he and all his host, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about.
All right. So notice when Yahweh is telling the story on this specific day in this specific place by this specific person. When you were in school and you were reading books, what subject was that? That told you specific person, specific time, specific date, and what happened?
History.
History. Because this is a history book. This is telling us our history. All that lost stuff we don't know about, we can go right in here and we can read our history.
Verse 2. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king, and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of the king Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of Yahweh and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard brake down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city and the fugitives that fell to the king of Babylon with the remnant of the multitude did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen.
So these were the people that were left in the land, the poor people, the humble people. Those were the ones left in the land, and they were left as servants. But all the high, mighty, exalted leadership people, princes and all that, all those people got removed.
And the pillars of brass that were in the house of Yahweh, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of Yahweh, did the Chaldees break in pieces, and carry the brass of them to Babylon. And the pots, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered took they away. And the fire pans, and the bowls, and such things as were of gold, in gold, and of silver. In silver the captain of the guard took away. The 2 pillars, 1 sea, and the bases which Shlomo had made for the house of Yahweh. The brass of all these vessels was without weight. The height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and the chapiter upon it was brass. And the height of the chapiter was 3 cubits, and the wreathen work and pomegranates upon the chapiter round about, all of brass, and like unto these had the 2nd pillar with wreathen work.
So all that beautiful stuff, all that pomp and circumstance, all that great beautiful temple and all that stuff was broken down and destroyed. And you actually got to see some remnants of that, of what it looked like when they stripped everything in the land. All of this was taken away. Why? Because it's straight vanity. You did all this stuff was supposed to be the glory and beauty of the Most High for us to worship him in spirit and truth. But instead, we did like the heathen roundabout. And we did whatever we could do to get the financial gain and to get the lustful gain of the women around the land and so forth and so on. And then think that, oh, woe is me that he's stripping down this temple. Nah, this is symbolic of what's happening to the people. The people were stripped down way before they stripped the stuff down. Because for them to even touch the physical things that we own, we got to be stripped down with inside. And we were stripped of our holiness because of our actions and the things that we do. And you see the same thing happening in this land. To the point where why cops can shoot down our women and our elderly like it's nothing, and our children like it's nothing, with no gunplay, no fire. Yeah, we might tear up some riot in the street so we can get some free stuff. But why ain't nobody shooting no cops? But then yet somebody shoot one of the homeboys in the street or whatever, then all of a sudden we riding up, we ready to go light up a whole block and shoot up innocent children and innocent families because of some beef that went on. We have no strength within us. We have been totally brainwashed.
Verse 18. And the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and 3 keepers of the door. And out of the city he took an officer that was set over the men of war, and 5 men of them that were in the king's presence, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe of the host, which mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land that were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, took these and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them, and slew them at Riblah in the hand of Hamath. So Yehudah was carried away out of their land. And as far as the people that remained in the land of Yehudah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, even over them he made Gedaliah, the son of Acham, the son of Shaphan, ruler. And when the captains of the armies, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah governor, there came to Gedaliah to Mizpah, even Ishmael, the son of Netaniah, and Johanan, the son of Kareah, and Sariah the son of Tanhumeth, and Netophathite, and Yazaniah the son of Emmachathite, and they and their men. And Gedaliah swore to them and to their men, and said unto them, Fear not to be the servants of the Chaldees. Dwell in the land, and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. But it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael the son of Netaniah, the son of Elishama, of the seed royal, came, and 10 men with him, and smote Gedaliah, that he died, and the Yehudim and the Chaldees that were with him at Mizpah. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies, arose